So much of life is just spent doing the same remedial tasks over and over, and because of that, we have to take time to enjoy life. We don't want to just be dust in the wind, and because of that, we have to take chances. We have to take chances in something bigger than ourselves, something that goes outside the box, something that rethinks the box itself. Have you ever thought to yourself, hey, I should dip my hands into the obscure 3DS game library? Well, if you haven't, you're really missing out, because it's one of those consoles that actually had a lot of excellent titles to it outside of the main attractions that it had to offer. Japan exclusives are always interesting games, and the 3DS is actually full of them. Despite being a super successful console in the United States and in Europe, the 3DS had a lot of games that never left Japan. It was also Nintendo's last handheld that was region locked, so you can't play different region games without modding the system. Because of this, the only place some of these games would be actually order a Japanese 3DS, the game itself, several textbooks to learn Japanese, and spend many months chipping away at a game to figure out how to even get past the main menu. Fortunately, it's not the early days of the internet anymore, and there are tons of modders floating around the place trying to translate things for us to make patches for these games so we can enjoy them. As I've mentioned in other videos, my Japanese is only so-so, so it definitely makes it easier for this video that the game is translated into a language that I'm actually fluent in, though that's debatable. Without further ado, we're talking about Labyrinth no Kanata, or Beyond the Labyrinth in English. For the sake of this video, I shall be referring to it by its English name for the remainder of this video. Beyond the Labyrinth was made by Konami back in 2012 and was actually slated for an English version apparently. But this was back when Konami decided to drop out of making games and wanted to focus on screwing over Hideo Kojima and treating all their employees like crap. So the English release was cancelled as far as I can tell. It's good to see Konami actually back on track and outside of the dark ages though, because the Silent Hill 2 remake was absolutely incredible. Beyond the Labyrinth is definitely an interesting game for 3DS, and while it doesn't really use the hardware in any real unique way, it definitely handles gameplay in a manner that I found truly fascinating. I first heard about this game from Ryan Beardy, who did a review of it. Shout out to him, by the way. After watching only a few minutes of his review, I actually stopped it and refused to go any further, because he had made the game sound so interesting that I wanted to go into it unspoiled and play it for myself. So that's a true testament to how great his video was. It made me want to play the game. After only about 20 minutes of playing it, I knew I had to do a video on this game, because this game is not talked about at all outside of Japan as far as I know. When making this video, I couldn't even find a written walkthrough on it, and the video walkthroughs in this game are few and far between. Anytime I got stuck, I actually had to resort to asking ChatGPT, so even with the English patch, this game is really not well known. But maybe I, as a low-quality content creator, can have some kind of impact on that. Perhaps I can continue the work that Ryan Beardy did and bring this game to more people's attention. There are so many games that I wanted to do videos on, but this was one that I had been planning on to talk about for a good 8 months at the time of writing the script for this video. The moment I saw this game, I knew it was going to be something special, and I was not mistaken. This is one of the most unique Japanese RPGs that I've ever played, taking many simple systems and combining them in a manner that I've never seen before, and probably won't see again. Beyond the Labyrinth is an experience, something you should just kind of take in, and one that I've taken my time taking in, because I want to do this game absolute justice. So I took my sweet time with this one because I am a lazy video maker who is bad at games. This game was not easy to get footage of due to the fact that, one, it only came out in Japan, so the only way to play it is to use an English patch on a modded 3DS, which I obviously can't show how to do, or Nintendo's death lawyers with future guns will come and take me out. And two, because the 3DS is not exactly an easy console to record footage from. There are expensive modifications you can make that attach an HDMI port to the board and allow you to hook up the console to a computer, but it just seems really convoluted to order a Japanese 3DS, Japanese game, and exclusive third-party modification, when I can just get the footage right from my Odin 2. Given this is the far more practical option, the footage you're going to see is from the Odin 2, which has some upscaling and filters applied that make this game absolutely gorgeous. But I have played it on my 3DS as well because, like I said, I want to do this game justice. But this, at the very least, will give me more opportunity to fanboy over how absolutely impressive the Odin 2 is. Oh, and big thanks to Nagato of GBA Temp for making this translation patch so many years back and even updating it a few years ago. It's really great to see people who love obscure games so much they put this much effort in making sure that people get to enjoy them. A person after my own heart. Keeping old games alive is part of what this channel is all about, so I salute those going to such length to keep an obscure Japan-only dungeon crawler RPG from 2012 relevant. There are some people in this world that really go above and beyond, that's for sure. Holy crap, there is a lot to talk about in this part of the video. In fact, I expect it to be the longest part of the video by far because Beyond the Labyrinth's development definitely focused heavily on design and game mechanics. This game oozes creativity, and I kind of dig it. It's another excellent example of refining the basics and using them in clever ways. On surface level, the game seems simple, a literal rock, paper, scissors battle system, but it gets so much more complex and strategic than that. I'm getting ahead of myself though. Beyond the Labyrinth is, you guessed it, a dungeon crawler. A dungeon crawler in the most direct sense of the genre. You're traversing a huge labyrinth looking for a way out, and of course you've got the RPG aspect of it to contend with. It's pretty straightforward in that regard, but deceptive as well. At first glance, you might just write this off as yet another dungeon crawler, but you would be horribly mistaken. There is far more depth and strategy to this game than you would imagine, and now we're going to dive right into it. Combat in this game uses the traditional combat triangle that I mentioned earlier, that there is rock, paper, or scissors, or red, blue, and green. Green is strong against blue, blue is strong against red, and red is strong against green. Naturally, the same works in reverse in terms of weaknesses. Attacking the enemy with its weakness results in a pool being created of the same color that will be used the next time someone of that color attacks. This means just spamming weaknesses isn't the way to go, because your opponent will just heal back the damage you do on their next turn. This means combat is focused heavily on paying attention to the turn order in the bottom screen. You can see which order attacks are in because each attack creates waiting points. Stronger attacks means you'll have to wait longer to attack again. The same applies for your opponents. What this translates to is using your attacks wisely and timing them appropriately. Skipping your turn can actually be more advantageous for the correct situation. You can also switch the color of your party members at specific locations of the game or using certain items in battle. Items are very limited too, and there's no shop in the game. The only items you'll get are the ones you pick up hidden throughout the labyrinth, so it's wisest to conserve them for when you truly need them. But when used correctly, a single item can drastically turn the tide of the battle in your favor. Beyond the Labyrinth has a system in place where new mechanics are introduced gradually over time so they're not instantly overwhelmed, and it does so expertly. You never feel like a new mechanic just pops into existence and disrupts your gameplay. Instead, they appear after major sections of the game are complete, and these new mechanics drastically change how you approach combat encounters. Except the dress-up one, I don't really know what the deal is with that. At first, you'll be trying to line up attacks so that you can absorb energy from attacking a weaker color with a party member of the corresponding color, but then you're introduced to the white color. See, I haven't exactly talked about this girl yet. She serves as sort of a fifth party member, but you don't control her directly, and the mechanics surrounding her work a little bit differently. Eventually, at a later point in the game, she gets the ability to use magic herself, but her color is white, meaning it's effective against all enemies, but she doesn't stack damage the same way the player does. See, damage in the game is determined by attacking with the right color and how many attack points you put into that attack. More attack points mean more damage, but longer recovery time until next attack. But the girl's attacks are based entirely on your own. See, you will see a number under her health bar that goes up when you damage enemies. It can go up either by increments or by multiplied depending on how you set each party member. This means that she has the opportunity to do incredible amounts of damage if you plan accordingly and pay attention to the battlefield. Do keep in mind though that her damage is also limited by her health, so it's advantageous to protect her. This is why they have a protection function that is introduced at the halfway point of the game, where your party members can actually block damage coming toward her. Every battle gives you experience that you can expend on either increasing your health or the amount of attack points your characters have. But that's not all. Every battle the girl's damage cap is increased as well, so it's advantageous to explore and take out as many enemies as possible so she has a much higher damage pool that she can take from. I know I'm throwing a lot of mechanics and numbers at you, and this is all probably sound like a boring math snorefest for a lot of people watching this video, but I assure you that once it clicks, it really clicks. Grinding is always a controversial topic in RPGs, and while I'm actually a fan of having the option, Beyond the Labyrinth has very limited grinding. Enemies only really respawn once, and only certain ones, so once you retreat to an area once, there is little point to go back. You won't be able to brute force your way past tougher enemies by just grinding like that really annoying frog boss later in the game. And this is where I talk a little bit more about some of the negative aspects. Beyond the Labyrinth's penalty for death is, you guessed it, reverting to the last save.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
This can be super frustrating sometimes, and more so since the only way to heal your party outside of using the battle mechanics and small healing pools, which are single use, is going back to the last actual save point, which means walking back very slowly. There is no run option in this game, nor fast travel. So sometimes before a boss fight, you will find yourself trekking back to a save point, just to be able to enter that boss chamber with a fully healed up party. This process can take up to 10 minutes just to go to the save spot and then return to the boss. Luckily, you can set a checkpoint at the start of every floor, but it doesn't change the fact that if you want to fully heal, you might have to go all the way back. Though admittedly, the later floors offer a lot more shortcuts to make this easier. If you were hoping for any kind of hand-holding throughout this game, you may as well forget about it, because as I mentioned before, I could not find much in the way of walkthroughs for this thing. So you might have to just do this the tried and true method of just trial and error. That is assuming you don't break your 3DS in frustration at times. Emulation naturally will help, as you can use save states, which this game definitely benefits from. There are definitely steeper learning curves in the second half of the game, but you'll find yourself so fascinated with the game that you'll likely trudge onward just to see what's next. After all, that's basically what I did. This game will keep you on the edge of your seat and definitely test your mental abilities trying to wrap your head around its complex battle system, but it's so rewarding when you finally get it. Just seeing the next part of the Labyrinth is such an amazing feeling of accomplishment. But you know what is also an amazing feeling? Subscribing to my channel. I know a lot of you watching aren't subscribed, and it would be so cool if you did that so you can see me ramble on about more games you probably never heard of. I have a goal of reaching 1,000 subscribers, and you could all help with that. Anyway, back to the video. There's two last things I should talk about in terms of game design, and that's the actual levels and the music. The levels themselves definitely match the title. It is, in fact, a labyrinth, and it doesn't shy away from that fact. While games like Eternal Sonata are stupid and dumb because they try to be this grandiose thing that they don't need to be with obnoxiously long opening cutscenes, Beyond the Labyrinth doesn't try to be more than what it claims it is. It's a labyrinth, and it doesn't shy away from that fact, but what's great is it's not completely obtuse, and with a bit of patience you can find your way around just fine. The map is a little confusing at first, but you'll quickly learn how to use it without too much trouble. The environment is pretty and damn impressive for the 3DS. You're looking at upscaled footage, but even on the actual screen, it's pretty impressive how pretty this game looks. You don't have to look at the same thing for too long either, as after getting past specific floors, the theme of the labyrinth changes, along with the music. Another point that I have to mention is how this game kind of begins like an 8-bit dungeon crawler style, as the player is actually playing a game within the game at first, and so the game is sort of stylized with a mix of modern 3D and 2D retro look. It's actually pretty cool stuff. Music-wise, it's a decent soundtrack, not one that I'd call memorable, but it gets the job done, and that's all I can really ask for. It's sporting some decent voice acting too, though admittedly only 2 characters' lines are voiced, so it's kinda hard to screw that up, and of course it's all in Japanese. I really do have to thank Nagato for translating this gem. This section of the video will be my usual level of butchering. I'm kidding, the reality is the story of this game is very minimalist, but intriguing to say the least. You play as someone playing an online game with 3 other people known as Lily, Professor, and Edge. You never actually see your fellow party members because you're all playing for another location, presumably Japan. After forming a group within the game, you all hear the voice of a girl in the distance. After going to investigate, you're pulled into another game entirely where you have to help her escape the labyrinth. She's known only as the girl in the menus, and I'll be referring to her as such. Given that every character refers to her as she and her, I'm going to assume that she is female, given that in 2012 when this game was made, it wasn't exactly commonplace for developers to insert trans characters into games, though I suppose she could pass as such, it's hard to say. For the sake of this video though, I'm going to be calling her the girl, so don't come at me in the comments please. She is whatever you want her to be. I want her to be the reincarnation of Stan Lee riding a Harley Davidson, smoking a cigar, and telling people that he just punched Godzilla right in the face. However, it would take way too much work to edit the footage to put that in every single scene from here on, so just imagine I put a clever editing joke here. In case you were wondering if I was just calling her the girl to avoid spoilers though, no, to spoil things early, she's never given a name throughout the entire game, even the ending. When you encounter her, the online game that you're playing turns into the huge labyrinth that you must aid her in escaping. What form you take is unknown, except that she can see through some kind of window that is following her around. This is a really surreal experience because there's no actual way for your team to actually communicate with her, as she can't hear you. Though you can see the chat dialogue between your party members sitting at their computers at home, and get to know them this way. As for the girl though, you'll only learn from what she chooses to divulge to you, as you can't ask her directly. It's actually a very interesting and disjointed way of telling what's going on, but not in a bad way. I kind of dig it. There's a lot of intrigue that makes you kind of have to make your own assumption as to what's happening. This world that the girl is in seems to be connected to magic, and as you progress through the labyrinth, she eventually gains more seals in her body that are used to progress through specific emblem doors. It all comes to a head though when at the very end, after hours of trekking through this place, that you come to the final boss, who is only hinted at through the entire game. But he's only referred to as the Sealed One. Apparently the entire labyrinth was created to seal him away, and he's the epicenter of magic of this world. You're treated with a final battle that requires you to use everything you've learned, and I really mean that. The second half of the game gets somewhat brutal with this difficulty, and a single mistake can cost you an entire boss fight. If you're skilled enough though, you take him to the cleaners, and the labyrinth is destroyed. At the very end, the connection to the girl's world is lost, and her fate is left unknown. I know most people prefer happy endings, but I have to admit, this one actually felt pretty fitting to me. Given that so much of the game is a mystery right down to why it never even got localized, it's only fitting that it ends on a mysterious note like this. Hey, it's better than Final Fantasy XIII's ending. If you think I'm skimping you, I'm really not. This game just doesn't have a lot to talk about in terms of its story. Its story is extremely minimalist, but that's okay, I actually like it that way. It's a good example of how sometimes less is more, and even though the game is so long, and having such little story, it actually just works. And I say this as a story guy. I love games with great story, but this one I felt was very intriguing regardless of how minimalist it was. Perhaps one of the more disappointing aspects of this game though is the lack of extra content. There really isn't anything to see after you finish the game. I mean, it's no Chrono Trigger, that's for sure. That's okay though, because Beyond the Labyrinth will take you a good 35 hours to finish, as it's a pretty long game for a handheld back in 2012. I'm sure some people will have fun playing with the dress-up mode, but it's really not for me. Besides, all it really does is allow you to change the colors of the girl's outfit. It's really a shame that there's nothing else to unlock, but it's probably for the best, as the game would likely overstay its welcome if it shoved some kind of B campaign in there or something. It's a good game when it doesn't overstay its welcome, that's for sure, unlike Final Fantasy XIII. You definitely walk away without many answers to what was going on, but honestly, I'm okay with that. I said it before, but a bad explanation is worse than none at all. With no explanation, I can build my own idea of what's happening, but a bad one, it's just bad and stupid. Sort of like Catwoman on the GameCube. Seriously, why do I even still own that game? At the end of the day, Beyond the Labyrinth may not have much in the way of replay value, but I'm actually glad I played it. And I think many of you watching will be too. Beyond the Labyrinth is definitely a game that is worth your time to check out. And that's saying something because it's nearly a 35-hour game on a handheld. I know nowadays that doesn't sound like much, but this was back in 2012, where 100+ hour games were relatively unheard of on handhelds. Sure, there were a few standouts on the PSP at that point, but the PSP and PS Vita were kind of aiming for a full-fledged console experience on the go, whereas the 3DS was still leaning into that portability means compromises mindset. It's a real shame this game didn't make it outside of Japan, and I highly doubt any kind of re-release is happening anytime soon, if ever. But thanks to the passion of fans, those of us in the West can experience this hidden gem on the 3DS. Before the end of the video, I want to thank everyone for watching because it actually took a lot of work than I had originally thought it would take to make this video. Given how difficult it was to even find information on this game made it somewhat challenging to develop a video on it. If this is your first time on the channel, I do retrospective like this, usually for classic or older games. And I put videos out every 3 weeks. If you're a returning viewer and not subscribed yet, I ask you to consider subscribing as these videos take quite a bit of work to make, and I greatly appreciate any and all support. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. Be sure to like the video and comment and let me know what your thoughts on this game are. And be sure to subscribe to see more videos like this one. This is Wisplay, and that's enough of that.